This is Nice Guy Eddie. You're listening to In My Humble Opinion on Rainbow Radio. Something I want to talk about before we get to the guest. There's going to be a series of shows coming up about every other week where we will be talking to a supporter of either Secretary Hillary Clinton or Senator Bernie Sanders, both candidates, of course, for the Democratic nomination for president. And what we have been seeing is a somewhat disturbingly increasing trend on, particularly I've noticed it on Facebook, of people who are passionately supporting one candidate to the point that I'm beginning to hear things like they will not vote for the other candidate should their preferred candidate not win the nomination. People talking about writing in names, people talking about abandoning the Democrats entirely and going third party. And I have to admit, this is really concerning to me. Now, about a year ago, and I know it was a year ago, it was not quite a year ago. It was before I started the show. You can dig back in my blog, and you'll find a video that I did when Secretary Clinton was still considered very much the inevitable, let her have it, let her go, it's her turn, blah, blah, blah. That was the conventional wisdom. That was the story that the media was spinning. And, of course, I'm going to acknowledge there's a lot of concerns that people have with Secretary Clinton. She's not the most popular candidate that someone could pick. And this was before Bernie Sanders had really gotten serious about running, although probably just before there were rumors and whatnot, and essentially it was right before he announced. And I remember saying something to the effect of, why are we going to have a primary? Why are we going to talk about this? Why are we going to have this divisive thing? You know what? And of course, I didn't take it very seriously. I was led by the media to believe that a Clinton victory was inevitable. So what's the point? Why don't we start focusing on the Republicans? Why don't we start coordinating with people like Sanders and also people like Elizabeth Warren and Grayson and others in Congress, Pelosi, to try to figure out, okay, what's the agenda going to be? How are we going to hit the ground running so that we don't stumble the way the administration did in the first 2 years of the Obama administration. They basically thought they were going to play nice and Congress was going to listen to the will of the people, and we saw how that worked out. Now, again, I'm not particularly proud of that video that I did. It was my feeling at the time, but where I am right now, just so everybody's clear, Sobel Nation, if you will, is Clinton country. Sobel as a company is officially endorsing Hillary Clinton. I personally am endorsing Bernie Sanders, and so I want to make that very clear. I'm a Sanders voter. So when I put what I'm putting out there, when I put these critiques and these balanced views out there, I want people to know, especially the Sanders supporters, I'm not bashing Sanders. I'm not boosting Hillary. I do plan to vote for Sanders in the Michigan primary, but one thing that is absolutely clear is that I will be voting for the Democratic nominee in the general election come November. And I don't see either one of those things changing. There's a lot of stuff being said about both candidates, both good and bad, and unless Bernie Sanders is shown on television eating live puppies or something like that, I don't see my vote moving off him. That being said, I, without a second thought, will pull the lever for Hillary Clinton in November. And it scares me, the number of people that we have come across that say, I will not vote for Clinton, or and an increasing number lately are saying, I will not vote for Sanders. Not surprisingly, I think there were more Sanders people. Barbara and I cast our net out there. We put this offer out there on Facebook to basically say, if you feel that way about one person and about the other, if you feel that strongly for one and that negatively about the other, we want to hear from you. So we have a series of shows. The first one is coming up on the 23rd, so that'll be 2 weeks from tonight, with PJ Espinal. Now, she is a Bernie Sanders supporter that will not vote for Clinton. Following that, we will have another show with a Clinton supporter who will not vote for Sanders. And the reason that we're doing this, I think that it's very important that people get a chance to make their case both in a positive way for their own person, a negative way for the other person. And, I essentially, again, I lean Sanders, but I feel that I'm a lot more objective than what I'm hearing from these folks. And I want to, moderate that a little bit and poke that and prod that and test that a little bit and test that resolve. And I just to see, like, well, what are the issues that are driving folks? What's important? What's the case? How do you perceive these people? And what is it that's drawing you to one and repelling you from the other? And I want to get that perspective out there. I want people to think about this. This is a very important election, and the primary is something that not as many people participate in. And I want to be very clear. I think people should. I think people should get involved. And if I can help facilitate that and facilitate some conversation out there, great. But what is really concerning me is just how vicious this fight is getting. And the reason is, the obvious reason is I don't think this country can afford a Republican administration right now. I don't think we can ever afford it. But right now is a particularly bad time for this. Now, everybody has the issues. Nobody wants to be considered a one-issue voter. But, I always find that somewhat dismissive, because if your big issue is, let's say, women's issues, well, that covers health care, that covers equality in the workplace, that covers discrimination, that covers abortion, that covers a lot of different things. If your passion is gay rights, for example, or LGBT rights, again, that covers discrimination, it covers health care, it covers church and state issues, as does, by the way, the women's issues. So these things overlap. The same thing can be said, for race and many other, and even economics, that none of these issues are single in and of themselves. They are all interconnected. My number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 top issues are the chairs on the Supreme Court. Okay, that to me, and if that does not make me, saying the Supreme Court, that sounds like one issue. It does not make me a one-issue voter. It makes me an every issues voter, because every issue of consequence and controversy eventually end up there. Okay, and for the last, most of my lifetime, I think you have to go back to the Warren Court. You have to go back to before I can actually remember or was even aware that there was a Supreme Court. Liberals have had a 4-5 deficit. In other words, we've had no more than 3 or 4 votes that we could actually count on. The swing votes tended to lean conservative, and the conservative bloc generally was as large or bigger than the liberal bloc. And for the first time in my lifetime, that's not true. The last time that there was this opportunity was, of course, in 2000, but instead we got George Bush and we got Samuel Alito and John Roberts instead of Al Gore and whoever he would have appointed. And right now, the way the court shakes out, and this is probably not news to most people, but for those who aren't paying attention, there are 4 justices, all appointed by Democrats, two from Clinton, 2 from Obama, Justices Kagan, Sotomayor, Ginsburg, and Breyer. And they all tend to vote in blocks and tend to vote for liberal issues and in favor of these things. There are 4, all appointed by Republicans, Scalia, Thomas, Alito, and Roberts, who tend to vote in a block and vote Republican. There was one exception to that. Roberts crossed lines on the very first Obamacare case. But other than that, they've been very reliable in voting in blocks. And you have Justice Anthony Kennedy, who is the middle. He's the swing vote. And he's not a moderate. He's not a middle guy. Make no mistake about this. He is a conservative swing vote. Now, he does lean libertarian on certain issues. This is why we have gay marriage, for example. Basically, Kennedy single-handedly did that because he is the deciding vote in all of these cases. Now, here's the scary thought. Ruth Bader Ginsburg is 82 years old and a pancreatic cancer patient. Okay, guys, I don't want to be morbid here, but let's be realistic. She is not going to be alive 8 years from now, let alone sitting on the Supreme Court. That is a cold, hard reality. Now, my case, and I'm going to be making this to every guest that comes on, if nothing else gets them to crack, is this very simple question. Do you want a potential president, Ted Cruz, for example, or Marco Rubio, the way he's been talking lately, to name the replacement for the single most liberal justice, to give the conservatives a permanent 5-3 advantage with Anthony Kennedy now being a meaningless swing vote? Okay, and think about what this means, not just for gay rights, but for abortion, for labor issues, for free speech issues, for corporate issues. And I don't care what people have to say about Hillary Clinton. I want you to picture the worst judge she could possibly appoint. I would imagine that would look something like Justice Elena Kagan, who's not a justice that I particularly like, actually, but I cannot complain about any of the votes she's cast. But it's very simple to me. That's a definite. Now, beyond that, the next oldest and longest serving is Anthony Kennedy, the swing vote. So if he should step down during a Democratic administration, you would have a solid 5-4 advantage for the liberals. At that point, you can pretty much bet that any case going before the court is going to go the way you want it to. Again, there are troubling views. Kagan, for example, someone says, "What's wrong with Kagan?" She has some views on executive power that border on fascism. If a case for executive power went before the court, I would have some concerns about that. However, in that instance, though, again, you look at everything else, including Citizens United and Hobby Lobby, and again, these 4 justices voted against, and it was Kennedy that basically gave the conservative, corporatist, fascist majority the victory there. And I don't think we can afford that. I think we have a unique opportunity, certainly to protect. You need to protect Ginsburg's seat because, no, I'm sorry, the next president is absolutely naming her replacement. And if you do get a conservative president, let's say Ted Cruz is our next president, well, what's going to happen is the next longest serving oldest two on the court, that is Scalia and Thomas, might just decide to step down so they can appoint somebody 20 or 30 years younger than them to take their spots. And you'll have 4 or 5, before you know it, you'll have 4 or 5 Samuel Alitos on the right-hand side of the court, and you'll never win anything again. I mean, it could be 20 or 30 years before you have an opportunity to truly change the balance of the court again, and I cannot stress how important this is. Okay, now, as people are listening to this, and if you want to take me up on this, I do want to hear from you. If you don't think that it is worth compromising your principles in November. Now, by the way, I'm not talking about compromising in the primary. When someone says, vote for this guy because he's more electable, bullshit. I think that both Democrats are electable. I truly believe that. Even if it's going to be a close match, I think you go state by state, and it's pretty clear both Democrats are electable. I'm not making that argument. But once the nomination is there, okay, I'm sorry, we have to coalesce behind the Democrat to protect from something far worse. And I know people don't like that. I know people don't want to, they feel threatened by that. They feel the Republicans are a threat, or people like me are a threat, threatening them with violence and terrible outcomes if they don't vote the way I want them to. Again, folks, the system sucks. I know that. I sympathize. But this is one of those cases where the system is what it is. We know what the 2 outcomes would be. There's only 2 possible outcomes. Okay? There have only ever been 2 possible outcomes, the Republican and the Democrat. I mean, you go back far enough, it was the Whig or the Democratic Republican, or it was the Federalist or the Democratic Republican. But bottom line, we have always basically had 2 parties, and no third-party candidate has ever won more than 2 or 3 states. And that guy, by the way, was George Wallace, so hardly a great example. You can go back and, Teddy Roosevelt, I think, Teddy Roosevelt beat Taft, but yeah. Okay, so I know my history on this, guys. I've gone through it. Third-party candidates don't win. Write-in campaigns don't work. Bottom line, the Democratic nominee and or the Republican nominee are the ones. One of those 2 is going to win the presidency. It's that simple. So your action when you are voting, when you're considering what you are going to do come November, even if what you're going to do is stay home, because you're not clean, you can't say, well, I'm not gonna participate. I'm going to stay home. It's very simple. Staying home, voting third party, writing in another name, all of those actions, okay, all of those actions are actions that make it more likely that whoever you consider the worst candidate to be, the one that is farthest from you, the one that is most offensive, it assures that they get elected. Okay, people wonder how bad Republicans get elected. And lately it's been terrible. You look around the country right now. To anyone who's going to tell me that the Democrats and the Republicans are the same, look around the country right now. Look at the transgender bathroom bills. Look at the religious freedom bills, which, let's face it, are really just reasons to be discriminating against LGBT folks. Look at the privatization of resources, such as the disaster that went on in Flint. Well, guess what? Despite all of Flint, Michigan's water being poisoned with lead, largely because of Republican incompetence and privatization of public resources, the Republican governor in New Jersey decided, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to turn the water over to a private company. Okay, you look at private prisons, again, all supported by Republicans. You look at the Michigan's Republican legislature just passed an anti-sodomy law that, despite that this is a settled issue with the Supreme Court, they have actually, it hasn't passed. It passed the Senate, it now goes to the House. It would have to, of course, be signed by the governor as well. But it essentially makes oral or anal sex punishable by up to 15 years in prison. Now, no pun intended, but that's going to be a pain in the ass to enforce. Ha, 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 ha. But, I mean, this is the kind of thing you're getting from the Republicans now. You're getting these kind of dog whistle issues, okay? And we can challenge them in the Supreme Court, and we can win every time. But you know what? Not if you've got a 5-4 majority, solid conservative majority. That these people are not principled. They don't care. I mean, the Roberts Court has discarded precedent with a breathtaking impertinence. Hobby Lobby showed this. Citizens United showed this. There are other cases. Those are the two big ones, of course. I've got a couple. Morse was always a pet peeve of mine. I didn't like the way that one was settled. That was prior to Kagan, I believe, though. I think Souter or Stevens or Stevens were still on the court at the time. But in any case, this is eyes on the prize, folks. Okay, this is eyes on the prize. And by the way, again, when we talk about, Bernie Sanders isn't going to get anything done, or Hillary is too beholden to the big banks, or whatever your complaint is, let me leave you with this one thought before we move on to the rest of the show. Anything that a president does can be undone by the next president. Hey, look at how bad George Bush was. Barack Obama undid most of what he's done. The war in Iraq is over. We're still in Afghanistan. That kind of sucks. Guantanamo's still open. That kind of sucks. But, I mean, again, it's Republicans standing in his way that have prevented much of that. But again, you look at most of what, anything that Bush puts in can be undone. And of course, the Republicans are all vowing to undo everything Obama's done. And my point is that anything a president does, whatever his legislative legacy is, it can be undone by the next guy or two guys down the road or whenever. It essentially, it's a very transient thing. It exists in the present. But the one thing that a president does that can have an impact 20 or 30 years out is a Supreme Court nominee. Putting somebody on the court, they are there for life. You cannot ever get rid of them unless they are arrested and tried and convicted of a felony. Then they can be removed. But basically, it's very difficult to remove a Supreme Court justice. I know people say you can impeach judges, but on the Supreme Court, that is unprecedented, if I'm not mistaken. And it's the one thing that a president can do that lasts a long, long, long time. So before we get too uncompromising about who we decide in the general election, and I'm going to be making this pitch more, so I hope you guys, I think you're going to hear this again. I hope you think long and hard about what that is going to look like if you take an action that makes a President Trump or a President Cruz or a President Rubio or a president, God forbid, another President Bush, a more likely scenario. You think Hillary's a corporatist? Do you think Bernie's not going to get anything done? Oh my God, wait, look at what the court will look like and see what that will mean for any issue that is important to you. I want you to consider that, and I want you to think about that. And I want you to tune in on the 23rd when we'll be talking to PJ Espinal, and on the 8th when we will be talking to someone from the other side. And we're going to have a series of these. Again, if you know anybody who is particularly passionate, send them my way. Again, my email is niceguy9418@usa.com, and I'm also on Facebook at Eddie Cabot. So check that out. Send me a message, and I am interested in hearing from everybody and all sides on this. So hopefully we'll get some more input on those. Moving on. My guest tonight is the artist and writer of the Hughes webcomic. It's my pleasure to welcome back Alex Heberling to the program. Alex, welcome back.
Hello, thanks for having me.
So a lot of comics under the bridge since the last time we talked. Story has progressed quite a bit, and I understand you've got a Kickstarter going to put out a second book.
Yes, I do. It started on January 15th, and it's running through Valentine's Day. And as of this recording, we're at 41%. Boop, 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 boop. Switch to the tab. $29.35 of a $7,000 goal.
Awesome. So definitely want to help you boost that up, and I'll put an update here for when this actually airs, how much closer you are. A quick update on that point. Alex's Kickstarter is now up to 73%, 5144 of the goal of 7,000. So this is definitely a good book, guys. Check it out. Make sure you help her out, because no doubt you will be. First Kickstarter was successful. I got to say, I was one of the purchasers of the original book, and I got to tell everybody out there, these things are beautiful.
Thank you.
The art and everything is fantastic. This is one of my favorite webcomics from the point of view of, for anybody who writes and draws their own comic. This is top shelf stuff, and the production value of the book was just phenomenal as well. I mean, definitely get your money's worth in terms of this. Are you going with the same publisher or producer?
Yeah, well, it's self-published, but I will be using the same print company.
That's what I meant.
It'll be very similar.
Now, along with the Kickstarter, because and this is kind of a dumb question because I didn't think to check. Do you have the stretch goal where you are offering the personalized sketches in the books for some of the buyers?
Yeah, that is a reward tier. It's called an artist edition, and that is at the $45 tier. You get an artist edition of the book. book, plus a PDF copy of the book and a downloadable wallpaper. And you'll be thanked on the acknowledgments page in the book.
All right, cool. So, that now, just to give everyone a little bit of background, because we talked, it was probably last June or July thereabouts. Can you tell everyone a little bit about what The Hughes is all about and why they should go check this out?
So the one sentence sort of pitch that I tend to throw out at conventions and stuff like that is that it's kind of like Sailor Moon and Independence Day starring Will Smith collided at high speeds. It's about a group of teenage girls with superpowers who are fighting against an alien invasion.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that jumps right out, it's like you said, it's about teenage girls. It is definitely a girl power type story because, from one perspective, basically all the guys are either they're useless. They're not helping out really much at all. Let's face it. It's all about the 6 girls, and it is 6 at this point. When we spoke last time, there were only 4, and 3 more have joined the team. And one of the things that I'm always struck by with this is they're the different personalities, and also just how ordinary, if you will, each character really is. Each one of these characters is somebody you would know. They are not the Amazon build, over-sexualized, Wonder Woman, Power Girl type superhero that you would normally get in run-of-the-mill comics. These are definitely people that you know, people that you could see on the street, that you would go to school with.
Exactly.
Thrust into the situation.
They're people that, I knew, or, combinations of a few different people I know, and, anyone you might, pass on the street or see in your college classroom or something like that. They're just regular girls.
Yeah. Thrust into a really just incredible situation. I mean, talking about, city destroyed and aliens coming down. And I mean, it sounds, and again, someone might hear that and just, another one of the stories, but it's really told in definitely never seen anything like this before, guys. So definitely check it out.
Yeah. I try to give a lot of focus on the characters, and I'm definitely working on a slow build as opposed to trying to tell the story as efficiently as possible.
Right. Now, the first book covered the first 2 chapters. And so I'm assuming volume 2 is going to cover 3 and 4, or is there going to be more content with the second book?
Well, the first book was first 3 chapters.
Oh, okay. My mistake.
And then the second volume will be 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Okay, so a potential third volume gets us about to where we are now. How much more of this story is there? Because I do get the sense that this is going to, kind of like Garanos and some of the other work that you've done, that this is a finite story. This isn't one that you're planning on doing forever. I assume there's a resolution in mind at some point down the road, yes?
Yeah, there is. With the current chapter that's updating right now, chapter 10, that will be the conclusion of the 3rd volume.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And so in volume 4, maybe volume 5, we'll have reached about the halfway point.
Okay, so there's quite a bit of the Hughes left to tell then. This is definitely...
Yeah, there's quite a bit of ground I want to cover still.
And yet, it's paced beautifully because it doesn't drag at all. I mean, it's a page turner, which it's really
thanks.
really cool.
I designed it to be eventually, ideally read in book form, but the webcomic aspect is a nice bonus and helps me keep to a deadline.
Absolutely. Now we touched on this the last time we talked, and as I was kind of it wasn't that recently, but I was kind of listening to the show, and we didn't really get too much in a depth on it, but there is a very strong feminist vibe to some of the work running behind the scenes, if you will, or threading through it. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious, for anyone who would either see that as a plus or a potential detriment. I mean, where do you fall on all that, and how much of that really is in your mind as you're writing this, or what was or maybe I'm reading too much into it. What was
No. I think that's totally a fair question. Yeah. I am certainly consider myself a feminist and an intersectional feminist.
Yes.
And, having these values evident in my work is important to me, but I try not to have it overwhelm in any way.
Right.
I mean, I just kind of want the characters to be and let the characters and stories shine through. And I try not to call a whole lot of attention to it, honestly.
Well, it comes through, I think, in a lot of, kick-ass female characters for a start. and definitely mention the intersectional aspect because you have characters of, if I'm not mistaken, I believe all 6 are of a distinct racial background, it would appear. At a minimum, I noticed, especially in the recent panel where they're all sort of putting their hands in because there's a sort of like a go team go moment. Yeah, and I'm going, wow, she has a different color palette for each person. Slightly
Yeah, I mean,
different.
three of them are the same race, but they don't all have the same, color palette,
Right.
like you said.
Yeah, exactly. But the main, the original, the first one that was introduced is of Indian origin, and there's an African American girl, and you also touch on different sexual orientations and whatnot as well.
Sammy is Ace, which is sort of a slang / short version of asexual, which is a person who does not experience sexual attraction and or has no interest in sex. And there's lots of different ways that various asexual folks identify and label themselves and whatnot. And Andy is bisexual. As well.
Yeah, and Hannah, of course, is a lesbian, but also coming from a very strict background, very religious, fundamentalist type family. Is well, at least I don't know if that's said explicitly. That was the vibe that I got.
Yeah, she's having a rough time.
I guess I shouldn't say
she's
religion. I don't
not
think
super
religious was specifically said, but I think you get she was definitely rejected by the family. It was not accepted, or I guess that's an interest. I mean, right now there's a dream sequence that you've been going through the last couple of weeks with Andrea, and I'm kind of curious if there's going to be something with one of the other characters that fills in a little more of the background. I'm particularly interested in seeing more of what Hannah had experienced, in the background. Don't know if that was what you had planned or not, but that would be a very
we'll
interesting.
We'll be finding out more about her specific background in upcoming chapters.
Awesome. Now I'm curious. You mentioned that you take each one has bits and pieces of other folks. Well, I guess first of all, do any of your friends or family these are based on? Do they realize that? Did they see that? Do they know that?
Tweaked not.
Or is there are they all analogous? Is there any like 1-to-1 type inspiration?
Not really. No, I've just I've tweaked so much and borrowed bits and pieces from here and there from lots of people I know and or have known to create the characters that probably no single person would be able to recognize, themselves.
Is there a character you particularly identify with more than the others?
I think that it's kind of funny. Like Andy is like the character now that I wish that I want to exist in this kind of story. Okay. Kind of like the sassy, leather jacket, cool, chubby.
Although Lauren's not too far from that.
Whereas Lauren actually is more like the character that I thought I wanted to be in high school.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
And Audrey is more of the person who I actually was.
Oh. So it's one of these. This is what my parents think. This is what my friends think. This is who I actually am. This is what I think I am. This is what I actually am. Now, exactly. Okay. Now, am I getting into spoiler territory if I happen to ask you about?
Yeah. Yes, you are.
Then I'll bleep that out.
How do you know that name?
I have my secrets. I have my methods. I mean, now, okay, I'm going to ask you something. I just want to know personally if I'm even in the ballpark, okay? So I'm going to ask you this, and regardless of if I'm right or wrong, it'll be spoilery as hell, but I'm going to bleep out, like, everything. I'm thinking about the 6 characters, and the reason I bring up is that, one, I sort of found something in the bowels of the internet that I'm looking at, and I see a character chart with 6 very familiar sounding characters on it, although they'd changed, like you said, they'd been tweaked a bit. And I began thinking about it, and I'm like, okay, there were a Magnificent 7, there were 7 samurai, there were 7 members of the Justice League. I don't know if I did not watch Sailor Moon, so I don't know if there were 7 of them, but there's sort of a magic number around that. And I'm also thinking, and I'm trying to do the math here. I'm saying, okay, you've got the 4 elements represented: fire and Hannah, water through the ice with Audrey, earth with Salime's plants, and air with Laura's lightning. You've got Andrea, who sort of represents the mind, and Sam, who we don't know yet. It's light, life, something like that, okay? So I'm thinking that there's this character out there named who's like this total, like really person who barely ever, which would be a very different personality than who's in the group already, and then their power would have something to do with either or, and that's why they like never use it, because something like that really character. Am I even close?
Oh man, you're totally onto me.
Oh, and Cool. All right. I knew it. I can't wait. I think I'm going to have a new favorite character after Laura once we get there, but we won't spoil any more of the book. And that's cool. That's cool.
I will just say the rainbow doesn't end with blue.
Yes. Oh, okay. I was thinking black, but you're right. You're right. Yeah, that's true. There's there's more beyond that. So, okay. Now, one other thing. The other reason I thought, because is there don't take this the wrong way. Don't take this the wrong way. But is there an Aquaman in this group? Is there someone in this group whose powers are just like not up to snuff with everyone else's? Because I kind of have this in mind, and I'm curious if you if in your mind these are all equally powered characters, or if there's sort of if there's maybe a couple more heavy hitters than others.
Yeah, definitely. I think probably in the only somewhat applicable Aquaman sense, Sammy's probably Aquaman right now, just because she has no idea what she's doing or exactly what she can do.
Right. But there's nothing but potential there, because it really hasn't been revealed what her deal really is.
Mm-hmm.
And she's kind of in my opinion, it's funny that you mentioned that you were actually Audrey, because the one thing I always feel sorry for the characters with ice powers in any work, because ice never works. It never works. Think about it. What happens? The villain comes and they freeze them in this giant column of ice the size of like Mount Rushmore. And they're like, all right, we won. And then what do you hear 5 seconds later? Crack, 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 crack. Like, ice never works. It never works.
We've only really seen Audrey use her powers in the form of ice so far, but she can control water.
All right,
as well.
All right.
It's just in that particular battle where she jumped into it.
It was one of the rare times ice actually worked.
Yeah, it's the first thing that she could think of. Like, okay, gotta get some ice, gotta stop the guys. Let it go, let it go.
Right. Now, the characters, as we mentioned, had been tweaked a little bit, because I think I stumbled across something. I'll tell you where I found it. It was in your file,
yes.
And it was kicking around from way back when. And as I said, I saw some very familiar characters. I saw some that were like, oh, she's changed a bit. But I'm curious as you went through this, because again, it can't be stated enough. And I assume this is somewhat artistic choice, somewhat personal choice, and also this is where maybe some of the intersectional feminism comes through. But the characters are, and it's a common complaint with, again, characters like Wonder Woman, etc. Whenever a female character is drawn by a male artist or writer, it's always way over-sexualized, to the point where, again, who cares about the personality? Who even cares about the powers? God, does she look hot in that suit?
Right,
kind of a thing. And there's a not an overt but conscious effort, I think, that comes through to stay away from that archetype. And I'm curious how, as you were designing these characters, were some of the changes in that you maybe saw yourself going in that direction and said, okay, wait a second, this isn't the message I want to put out, or?
No, not really.
Okay.
I think it was a little from column A of my art style improving or changing, and B, just getting a different or a better idea later on that I decided to go with particular character. Because it's like Audrey for a while had like really short, close cropped hair. And then I decided to give her, some a little curly afro kind of thing.
Right.
Oh, and then later on, I was like, oh, I'll put her in glasses because she looks really cute in glasses and that kind of thing. So.
Yeah, well, you've got two characters that wear glasses, and that's not normally something you see in that's always the supporting character. That's the alter ego. Very rarely is that scene. So yeah, it's cool that actually, again, going back to the very down to earth nature of it. Now, one of the things I was trying to figure out the other day, because I'm looking through volume 1, and I noticed, and this is an interesting, it makes for a very interesting style, and it's changed at one point. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but there are no lines in the first couple of chapters.
Yes, that is correct.
First of all, how do you even draw like that?
That was an illustration style that I worked in for a really long time. You can also see it in Garanos and,
yes,
my illustrations and stuff from, the last 5, 6, 7 years or so. And that the genesis of that was that I thought I didn't need inking because I wasn't good at it.
Okay.
And so there was just a bunch of, a long stretch of time where I did this style, and it's a very time consuming sort of thing. And so I believe it was when I first downloaded or purchased Manga Studio 4.
Okay.
and that program's brush engines are really, really nice. They're a lot better than Photoshop's, which is what I was using up until that point.
Okay.
And so I started practicing inking with that, and so I decided to use it in the comic, starting with chapter 4, which is, the dividing line between volume 1 and 2.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And
so when
I decided to start inking the comic before that, but I wanted to wait until the volume break to actually make the switch in the comic. I think that was my thought process there.
Okay. Well, actually, that does make a lot of sense, because then someone who's reading it won't actually change within books. They'll put one book down. They'll pick the other book up. Yeah. Okay.
And the bonus art and the cover art of volume 1 were also inked and then colored using my usual coloring style. But
I didn't notice that until you pointed it out just now.
Yeah,
that's true. Okay.
So it's not like it'll come at a huge surprise, I think, when someone finishes volume 1 and then picks up volume 2. Hopefully.
Now, have you had one of these situations? I'm curious, because again, assume that there are some archetypes that we draw from and whatnot. And again, as you said earlier, when I went through that segment that nobody else heard, I was picking up on something there. I'm curious if you've had one of those moments where you see something out there, whether it be an alien movie or another superhero work or something, and you begin to think maybe like, oh shit, somebody beat me to it, or somebody's that's starting to sound too close. Have you? And I asked that because I shared something recently with another friend of mine. I said, hey, I think you'd like this. And I didn't realize subconsciously the reason I thought she would like it is because it was exactly like an idea that she was pitching. Oh. And it totally ruined her day. She's like, oh shit, that was my idea. So I'm curious, as you go along here, if you are running the risk of running across that at some point, or if that weighs on you at all.
Post-apocalyptic fiction is kind of in these days, what with your Walking Deads and your this and that, but I haven't come across anything too like, oh god damn it, I wanted to do that. Most of the time I'm just sort of like putting away little notes like, ooh, that kind of looks cool how they could pose that shot with the things, and I don't know.
Gotcha. I'm curious a little bit too. So you mentioned that you identify as an intersexual feminist, and obviously with a lot of the characters, different racial backgrounds, different sexual identities, sexualities, etc. Kind of curious where you see things shaping up. If you've got a candidate you endorse or would support for 2016 at this point.
At the moment, I'm feeling the burn, as they say.
I think
probably
I've had
voting for Bernie Sanders.
I think I have a couple of those in a row. I guess, and I'm asking because this was a conversation I was kind of trying to get a guy roped into this discussion, and unfortunately he bailed. But there's a lot right now, and I'm shocked, and it makes me nervous. It makes me nervous because I swear there's so much division, or there's becoming this divide right now between the Sanders camp and the Clinton camp. Are you of the mind that you will vote for Clinton if Sanders does not get the nom, or where do you fall on that portion?
I mean, probably just out of sort of sheer laziness.
Okay,
I'm not super engaged with politics on that level a whole lot.
Okay,
but
so feeling the burn and are just that scared about Republicans, or
yeah. I mean, right. Did you listen to Palin's endorsement of Trump the other day?
Oh my God. I was at the gym actually, and I was in the locker room, they're playing the thing, and I'm listening to this, and like there are a bunch of guys like sitting around the TV eating it up, and I'm sitting in the back going, fucking moron. What a racist jackass. I mean, that was Trump. I didn't even hear it Palin's part, because like I honestly think you will walk away from a Palin speech less intelligent than you walked in.
It was horrifying. My boyfriend made me watch it, and like I wish I'd had a camera to record my reactions to it, because I did like the full like, oh God, she seriously just say that? Yeah, it was bad.
Oh my God. It
was troubling.
Well, I never thought I would actually endorse apathy, but please continue to be apathetic. And if Bernie doesn't get the nod, please vote for Clinton, because we can't.
I will be voting for Bernie in my state primary.
No, I will be doing the same, but I will be very, very happily voting for the Democrat in the general, because I'm sorry, anybody out there who's listening and saying, how could you just listen to him, okay, and don't talk to me about third parties.
Trump has hung around this presidential race a little too long for my liking.
Yeah. I mean, this was supposed to be a joke, wasn't it?
I know.
Wasn't he supposed to burn out by now?
Yeah, exactly. That's what happened last time. What's going on? I'm scared.
Thank you. I'm glad somebody sees. I actually saw somebody make the statement earlier. This was on a Facebook thread that said Clinton is worse than Trump. And I'm like, nobody is worse than Trump. The Republicans are barely worse than Trump. God. Oh, no.
It's exhausting.
I just, and what I don't, and this whole, well, he speaks his mind. Yeah, so does my drunk uncle, but he's not running. I don't want to vote for him for
I saw that
president.
post too.
I mean, there's a guy I walk past on the street every day speaking his mind. No one in particular. I wouldn't vote for him for president either. I was like, no, speaking your mind. That's not presidential. That doesn't make you good. Well, again, I never thought I would endorse apathy, but absolutely, be lazy and vote Clinton. I like it. And then I'm also curious though, from a feminist standpoint, this came out today. And you just happen to have the misfortune of being the first person I've talked to since I read about this. So apparently that after Planned Parenthood endorsed Clinton, Sanders went after Planned Parenthood, which I didn't think was a particularly wise move.
But I did not hear about this.
Oh, okay, all right. Because I guess, I guess that's, I think the conventional wisdom being, oh, someone's a feminist, they're going to automatically vote for Clinton. And you know what? More and more people are saying, nope, feeling the burn, just like that. And it's like, no, okay, so it's not just, I think it's a very conservative thing to assume that women will vote for anybody in a skirt, as they put it.
Right, look at the McCain and Palin last time.
Well, exactly. You cannot say that she helped. You can't. I don't think she cost him the election single-handedly, but she didn't help.
Certainly not, no.
In which case, you know what? By all means, Trump, Palin, let's go. I want that to be the ticket.
I think I vomited in my mouth a little bit just now.
I just, you know what? It's one of these where I want a sure thing to win, but then I'm like, God, if that was the ticket, can you imagine if we lost? And to anybody saying it's impossible,
it's not worth the risk. It's not worth it, people.
But I honestly, I don't know. Like, I'm thinking, like, what Republican could I actually live with? And I'm coming up with like Pataki. Who? Yeah, him.
Exactly.
But I guess I would be curious if I'm hearing a lot from the black community where they don't like they're critical of Sanders. I'm hearing a lot now from well, I'm assuming there's going to be a lot about this Planned Parenthood thing. I did not actually read what he said. I know a lot of the attacks have been taken out of context, so we'll see with that. Now back to the comic world. Curious because you obviously have been writing webcomics for a while, and I'm curious. There are a list of some comics recommended on your site. I'm curious what some of the, if you'd had a top 3, top 5 webcomics that you'd recommend other people check out. What are some of your faves? What inspires you?
Oh geez, I've been really digging lately this other magical girl comic called Agents of the Realm, which I believe is at agentsoftherealm.com or .net or something like that. It's a very diverse cast with a really great art style and stuff like that. And I think if people who enjoy my comic will probably enjoy Agents of the Realm, since it's kind of similar in tone and sort of age range target. I'm not sure. Okay. The girls are all college age magical girls, and they all meet and find out about sort of the previous agents and stuff like that. So there's lots of flashbacks to the previous agents and intertwining with the present agents and stuff like that. So that's a really good one. Another one I've been really enjoying lately is Sister Claire, which is at sisterclaire.com.
Yeah. Yeah, I had started reading that years ago, like back when it started, and I somehow went on hiatus or something. I hadn't read it in a while, and I came back recently, and I'm like, I'm totally lost. I have to start over.
Yeah, there's quite a lot has happened in the comic, and it's really evolved over the years too. It's a very satisfying read, I think. And
I've just been writing that one for a while.
Yeah, so that's a really good one. And number 3, I've been really enjoying the Girls with Slingshots reruns that have been going on. Okay. Girls with Slingshots.com, I believe. I don't know. Yep. But Danielle Corsetto completed the comic, ended it, whatever you want to call it, last year, I believe. And so now she's been rerunning the old strips now in color. So it's kind of been interesting to go back to the beginning of the story and see how it plays out all over again. And so I've been enjoying that lately as well.
Okay, cool. And do you have any? Obviously, there's still a lot of, as we mentioned, there's still a lot of Hughes left to write. Do you have any plans for any future webcomics? Or are you thinking about that, or do you not kick that around until? Do you do one project at a time? How do you usually?
I'm pretty much a one project at a time girl. I also do the colors for Evil Inc. by Brad Geiger at evil-ink.com. So you can see my artistic stylings there twice a week as well. But I do have this little comic that I wrote that I did in college called The Shepherd, which you can read it on my website, which is sort of a fairy tale about the seasons. And at some point, I'd like to go back and redo that with my much improved art skills over, what it was like 8 years ago when I wrote it the first time.
I remember that one. That one,
and also
there's a bit of a
add some more stories to it.
I was going to say, I was going to ask if you wanted to expand on that, because that was a pretty, as I recall, it was very short, but there was a lot of tragic elements in that, but it was a very brief, it was a very short run.
Yeah. It was a what's it called? Independent study.
Okay, gotcha.
I did, so it kind of had to have a finite length, and so.
Right.
And that's why.
Right.
Oh, yeah. And I did write another story for it as a 24-hour comic, which was 24-hour comics are fun, like the first time you do them. But then when you
can't imagine doing that.
But it's maybe not your best writing an artwork when you're, just trying to get as many pages done.
Right. And for those who don't know, that's basically a 24-page comic done in 24 hours. That's straight through, typically doing a page an hour. And I mean, what does an average page of the Hughes take you?
Oh, not an hour.
Well, yeah, no, I figured.
A typical page can take anywhere from 6 to 12, depending on how complicated background and stuff gets. But in this latest chapter, I've been kind of giving myself a break, because with the dreamlike quality of it, I've just been doing simple, very simple cell shading and minimal backgrounds.
Right.
So those only take me a couple hours.
Oh, so I see. So you get to take a little bit of a break with the dream sequences. Good strategy.
Yeah, a little bit.
So we're going to see about 5 chapters worth of dream strategies.
Half of this chapter, but
okay.
For this first half of it, at least.
And anyone who's reading it, by the way, pay close attention, because if you don't, like I didn't, you'll miss certain things, and you go back and read it. Go, oh my God, wait, what's going on over there? There's a lot of subtle things snuck in there, and I have a feeling it's one of these where when it's all revealed, you'll want to go back and read it again, because there'll be little things that you missed.
Yeah, that's what I'm going for.
Right. Okay. Cool. I see that you've got some. You're going to be making some appearances at conventions coming up.
Yes, I have quite a few already lined up for the first half of the year.
Mm-hmm.
My next one is going to be EvilCon in Evansville, Indiana. That is March 18th through 20th. And then the weekend right after that is a one-day con and a marathon in Bowling Green, Ohio. Then I will hopefully be going up to the Detroit area for PenguinCon, April 29th through May 1st. And then after that, I am going to TCAF in Toronto.
All right. I noticed that the Detroit one's not quite on your schedule yet. That one's a question mark?
Yeah, I've applied for it, and I've been there in years past, but I've just it is not quite confirmed yet. So.
Oh, okay. Now I'm not as familiar with the con scene around here. Do you know the venue? Where is that held?
In PenguinCon?
Yeah.
It's in Southfield, Michigan.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
At the Southfield Westin Hotel.
Okay, I'll definitely have to. I'll be keeping an eye on things, because if you're there, I'll definitely stop by for an autograph or something, or pick up some merch or something like that, because that's definitely my neck of the woods. Not too far from there. Oh, there was one thing that happened recently, and I suppose this is probably for those in the Midwest, but I missed the joke, so maybe you could fill me in here.
Mm-hmm.
Why now? Again, going back to the plot of the story, but this takes place in Columbus, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
That is your hometown, or
yes, that's where I live.
Right, that's what I thought. I thought we had. That's right. So basically, Audrey is in this. There's a dream sequence. We're not quite sure what's going on, but she's in this dream sequence, and she says to her father, I believe it was, that in her dream the aliens came and destroyed Columbus, and he says that's fighting words. Was there a joke, or did I miss something?
That's a little nod to the OSU and Michigan rivalry.
Okay. That's all right.
Because Andy is actually from Ann Arbor.
Oh, okay. That's right, because she said it took place in Columbus, and it didn't. So she is from Ann Arbor. Okay, so she's traveled quite a bit.
Yeah, so she says to her dad, I just remembered it was in Columbus. And he's like, I'm fighting words.
Okay, so she's from Ann Arbor. Okay.
Yeah, or, thereabouts.
Yeah, but actually that fills in a bit about her character too then. Okay.
So that's just kind of a little inside joke for those who are familiar with the rivalry, and then they can also figure out where Andy is from.
Right. Well, no. Apparently, some of your readers will be smarter than me because I knew there was something there. I said, "There's a joke here I'm missing. I don't know what it is." But and the funny thing is, of course, I mean, I'm actually a U of M guy myself, so I really should.
We have to end this call immediately. I'm sorry.
All right. Wait a second.
My mother will never forgive me.
I was going to say, what is your connection to OSU then?
My father graduated from OSU, and so did I, and so there.
Okay, so okay. Wait a second. Now, them are fighting words here. No, I will say, I went to graduate school in U of M Dearborn, so it wasn't like I'm a real like true blue Wolverine or anything, but I do have a connection. So now hold on a second, because from our perspective up here, our very vastly superior point of view. Now we're all convinced, and I'm not from here originally, so I've come to this conclusion or this impression by listening to people who have been here their whole lives. But I swear to God, Ohio State fans seem like the worst, most nasty, unwelcoming, violent, unsportsmanlike fans in the entire world. Now, I'm curious, is that something that OSU fans pride themselves on, or do they feel that way about everybody else? Is this just a perception thing?
Well, this is coming as someone who does not give two shits about football.
Well, neither do I should add. I'm just...
like, OSU fans are on, like, a whole nother level.
Okay.
Like, I don't think U of M fans set police cars on fire.
I don't think they have. No, I don't think so. I
feel like U of M people are, U of M people are like, just like, oh, it's a fun, friendly rivalry. And OSU fans are like looking at you across the room and dragging their thumb across their throat, miming that they're going to slit your throat.
Well, I used to work with a guy.
Are bananas.
I worked with a guy who, he's a Michigan fan. He went to an Ohio State game in Columbus back during the Woody Hayes days, okay? And he was wearing a shirt. I won't repeat what the shirt said. It just said something derogatory about Woody and peckers. And and basically he never got to the game. A couple of guys jumped him, dragged him into an alleyway, kicked the shit out of him, and he spent the afternoon at the police station making a report, never got to the game. And I'm just thinking, like, I cannot picture that happening in Ann Arbor. I mean, if somebody said like they went to Ann Arbor and got mugged, I'd be like, dude, really? You got mugged in Ann Arbor?
Yeah. Like if you go to up to U of M campus in an OSU t-shirt, I don't think anyone is going to really look twice at you.
Well, that might be the extent of what they do. They'll look twice. They'll do a double take. Yeah.
With Michigan colors on, like, yeah, you're going to get carjacked or something.
Right. And the funny thing is, okay, so I'm glad it's not just me, because it did seem to be that perception. And I'm not a huge football person either, and especially college football. I'll be honest, I really don't follow it that closely. But yeah, definitely if you're in Michigan, of course, Michigan State rivalry, and everybody hates Ohio.
Right, yeah. I feel like Michiganders are far more interested in the Eastern Michigan and Michigan rivalry than the OSU Michigan rivalry. While we're just remarkably focused on this one thing. On this one college rivalry.
God, yeah, it is funny. I mean, I've even had my cousin is from Boston. He went to a playoff game at Yankee Stadium in a Red Sox jersey and hat. And I'm thinking, and he was sitting up in the bleachers. I'm thinking, God, you're gonna get killed. He's like, no, everyone was real friendly. We all had a laugh at it. It's all good. And I'm thinking, and then I just think of my friend who got beat up in an Ohio State game. So okay, I got it. All right. I didn't realize that. And you're right, because Andrea did. She comes in on that motorcycle originally, and she had obviously traveled from some distance. That's not a ridiculous distance, but she was not from Columbus, but I never really picked up on the fact that she was from the Southeast Michigan.
Yeah, it's not really even hinted at until particular line.
Well, I guess, and that's kind of, I mean, all of the characters sort of do come together from, it wasn't like they knew each other before this. Is it going, I mean, and maybe it's not relevant, but I mean, where is everyone sort of coming from here, and how, where are they being drawn into the story from how far around?
Well, Sammy and Audrey and Salime all already lived there.
Oh, okay.
And Andy came from Michigan.
Right.
Now, Lauren came from a smaller town on the west central Ohio.
Oh, okay.
So she didn't travel that far.
Gotcha.
But Hannah, and this is, I don't know, maybe somewhat of a spoiler, but she comes from a small town in southern Indiana.
I definitely got the sense that she certainly came from a red state, and in the Midwest, I guess that would be Indiana. So that makes sense. I was assuming it was either be that or like somewhere from the Southeast, one of the South Carolina or West Virginia or somewhere like that. But yeah, Indiana, that does make a lot of sense for her character too. And yeah, definitely that'll be an interesting story because definitely a lot of really real, I don't know if self-loathing is the right word, but definitely a lot of issues with self-esteem and self-perception related to her sexuality, and tell it's come from. So wait, out of curiosity, how far is coming from? It'll be
she is local-ish. We'll go with that.
All right. Well, hopefully the fact that I figured something out and everybody else is wondering what the hell we're talking about behind all of those little kiwi bird bleeps there. Which is there's an inside joke there that I'm hoping somebody gets, but they're probably not even listening. So anyway, well, hey, so all right, so the Kickstarter is ongoing. It will have about a week. Actually, it'll have about a week left when this airs. Where will people go to find it?
Well, you can go to Kickstarter.com and search for The Hughes Volume 2, or you can go to my website, the-hughes.com, and there will be links plastered all over the place.
Awesome. And is there a I do not recall, was there a Patreon on that as well? I believe there is.
Yes, I do have a Patreon. Okay. Patreon.com/Alex Heberling.
So with those personal drawings that you did, how many of those did you end up having to do the last time around?
Oh, it wasn't like an absurd amount. It was maybe 30 to 50.
Okay, that's a lot. That's not. Is that kind of what you were you planning for that about, or was that more or less?
That's about how many I expected. I think about 250 books went out total.
Okay.
To all the backers, and so that's like, that's a little over like 10% or something like that.
Okay. All right. So
it wasn't an absurd number. I did start running out of ideas for things to draw.
Well, it's not like we compare notes. You could have just made the same drawing 50 times.
True.
But nice to know they were original drawings. That's cool. So I have a one-of-a-kind item here. So, all right. So good. When this eventually is made into a TV series and you're rich and famous, I'll have something really cool from the early days. So that's good. That's good. Okay. If somebody told me I had to make 30 what kind of a time period was that over, though? 30 to 50 original sketches.
They probably took about 20 minutes, 30 minutes a piece at most.
Damn. Okay. Yeah. That would have taken me about an hour. Okay. And it wouldn't have been nearly as good. It would take me an hour to copy that like as fan art on another page. It wouldn't look nearly as good. So, okay. So, guys, check it out. Really interesting characters, incredible artwork, great story, and definitely the books are very well worth it. Highly recommend support. I mean, I'm definitely going to be supporting the Kickstarter. Definitely be getting the. I want another one of your original sketches because I got Lauren last time, which was cool because she wasn't in the. She didn't have a little profile in the extras part of the book. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she didn't. She only appeared on like the last 5 or 10 pages. Or something.
Right, exactly. But she was the coolest one. Well, TBD. Anyway, hey Alex, thanks again for coming back on. Best of luck with the Kickstarter. Can't wait to see the future books come out and see what the strip holds from here on out.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I want to thank Alex again for coming on the program. If anybody couldn't tell, yes, I am in fact a huge fan of the Hughes post-apocalyptic magical girls, and I definitely recommend that everybody check it out over at thehughes.com and support the hell out of her Kickstarter. She's almost there, guys. Let's get her over the top because these books are phenomenal. If you go ahead and contribute a level that essentially pre-orders a book for you, you will be very happy about this. Check it out. Check out if the Volume 1 is still on sale. I highly recommend it. But it's a great webcomic, it's a great story, great product, and I really hope that people support it. As always, if you have any questions or comments about anything you've heard here tonight, please feel free to email me at niceguy9418@usa.com. You can friend me on Facebook at Eddie Cabot. Got a like page at Nice Guy Eddie. You can follow me on Twitter, Nice Guy Eddie Cab, Tumblr, Nice Guy Eddie Cabot. You can leave a comment on my blog at eddiecabot.blogspot.com. And if you'd like to support IMHO and content creators such as Alex Heberling and the Hughes, please contribute to my Patreon at Nice Guy Eddie. Hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. Keep on listening to Rainbow Radio.